All right, so we're back and we're making our cream cheese frosting for our red velvet cake. So again, we are using our KitchenAid. I'm using the paddle attachment today, and the first two things that I have in my bowl are my butter and my cream cheese. I'm going to cream these together until they're light and fluffy. So I'm gonna go on a high speed because they are both thick. So we are using softened butter and softened cream cheese. If your butter and cream cheese are not softened, this is gonna take 10 times longer and it'll come out a little clumpy. So I'm on a high speed here. When I turn it down, you can see that I have a nice smooth consistency here. I'm gonna scrape all of that down into the bottom, and I'm going to add in my vanilla, and then I'm going to add in my powdered sugar, but I'm only going to be using small increments of my powdered sugar. If you remember, powdered sugar can be called confectioner's sugar. Granulated sugar is white sugar, and brown sugar is brown sugar, so make sure we're using the fine powdered sugar, aka confectioner's sugar. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna put about a cup of my powdered sugar in here. Remember, if I'm making anything that has powdered sugar in it, I'm using my KitchenAid. If I put on a high speed, it's going to poof all over you, and that's not going to be fun. So I'm literally starting at 2. Once I see that my butter is kind of coated in my powdered sugar, that's when I'm gonna speed up, and that's, again, I'm gonna speed up. Now all my powdered sugar's in there. I'm gonna turn my speed down, and I'm going to again add about a cup of my powdered sugar in here. Once I have about a cup, I'm going to stop, let that mix, and I'm going to keep going. I'll come back and show you my final product. All right, so I finished my cream cheese frosting. As you guys can see, I have a nice thick consistency. I've whipped this. I'm gonna take off my bowl. I'm gonna make sure that there's no powdered sugar stuck to the bottom. And then after I'm done, I'm going to bag this and put it in a gallon-sized baggie and label it so that I can frost my red velvet on day 2. All right, hi guys. Today we're gonna be making our red velvet cake. So we are in our cakes unit, which means we're discussing shortened versus unshortened cakes. Red velvet has butter in it, so you guessed it, that means that it's a shortened cake because it has fat. So in my bowl already ready to go, I'm using my paddle attachment. I have my butter and my sugar. I'm going to mix these together until they are creamed, which means that they are light and fluffy. So I'm gonna lock my bowl, and I'm gonna make sure I'm going in about speed 6 to 8 so that it gets a nice fluffy mixture. And as you can see, immediately I'm up and I'm going, and my mixture is starting to turn. It's gonna go crumbly, and then after it goes crumbly, that's when it's going to start to look like one smooth consistency. So I'm gonna go for just another minute here. And while I'm doing this, I should be getting all of my other ingredients that are on deck ready to go. So in about, I'm gonna count down here, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Here we go. That is how our creamed butter and sugar should look. You cannot tell a difference between the butter and the sugar. So my next steps are going to be that I'm going to be adding my eggs, my vanilla, my buttermilk, and my food coloring. So I kind of have everything all ready to go here. So I'm going to drop in my 2 eggs. You guys will have had time to pre-measure one day, and then we will make this the next. Here is my vanilla. Gives us flavor. Remember, eggs are binding agents. I have my buttermilk. Your teachers will either have buttermilk for you, or you'll be making buttermilk, which is adding milk and vinegar together, just a small amount. And then red velvet cake is red, so how are we gonna turn it red? We are going to use our red food coloring. So I'm going to throw that in there as well. Now that I have all of these ingredients together, I'm gonna go ahead. I do not need to go super quick this time. I'm gonna be going on about 2 to 4 to get that all kind of mixed together. It is going to look almost like blood today because of how red the mixture is. Do not be scared, that is not incorrect. I'm getting that going, and then I'm gonna prep my cocoa powder, my flour, and my salt, and my all those 3 ingredients. So from here, I'm gonna stop this. It should look like a crumbly, like gross mixture, just a touch, because all of the butter and sugar is now kind of forced apart. So I'm gonna scrape that bottom of my pan to make sure that everything is combined, but it should look like sugar crumbles kind of inside of it, because I'm gonna add my flour now, which is the structure, if you remember. So I'm adding my flour. I'm gonna do about half my flour, and then I'm going to add all of my cocoa powder. Cocoa powder is how it kind of gets that chocolatey flavor. It's also going to deepen the color. Remember, cocoa powder is hydrophobic, so that means that it's afraid of water. So it might take that a second to mix in. That's completely normal. Then from here, I added my salt for a little bit of flavor. As you can see, I've left some of my flour out. I want these to mix together, and then I'll go ahead and add in the rest of my flour. So again, I'm going low and slow here. This does not need to be like at 6 or 8, I'm going 2 to 4. I'm letting it mix until it's about halfway. And then as you see, like that way my cocoa powder didn't go everywhere. I had a little poof. So I'm about halfway there. So I'm gonna turn my speed down to 2 and I'm going to slowly add in the rest of my flour, just at a steady pace here. And then once I have all of my flour in, this is gonna be kind of the trickster for you. Our baking soda and our vinegar are gonna be the last 2 things to go in because this helps with that bitter taste that you kind of get when you eat a red velvet cake. So I'm gonna now bump my speed up just a little bit here so I'm fully combining and incorporating, and I'm smoothing out my mixture because I don't want big chunks. Cake batter is supposed to be light and airy and fluffy, especially with our shortened cake. Think this is almost like a birthday cake consistency. So I'm gonna scrape the bottom of my pan, make sure that all of my ingredients are combined from the sides, all of that fun stuff. From here, I'm going to add in my vinegar and my baking soda, give it one last mix, and then I'm gonna be ready to go into my prepared pan. This is a shortened cake, which means that I do need to use my grease on my pan. So while this is finishing mixing, you can see I've already greased my sides and the bottom of my pan. You might be using a disposable. We're doing a tray cake, so this is a 9x13 pan. And I'm going to make sure that in my 9x13 pan, I evenly have everything spread out and mixed. So I'm gonna unlock, and as you can see, I have a nice smooth mixture. I don't have any lumps or clumps inside. I'm going to take off my paddle attachment. I'm gonna put this off to the side, and I'm going to, again, give one final mix, make sure that I got all that goodness in there, my cocoa powder. This looks perfect. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pour this into my bowl, or into my pan. And I'm gonna make sure I scrape all my sides. And then once my cake is in my pan, I'm going to bake this in the oven at 350 for about 20 minutes. All right, hi guys, so we're back with our red velvet cake and we're going to decorate today. So my sheet cake came out beautifully. I checked with a toothpick to make sure it's done. My edges are nice and pulled away, so I knew my cake was ready to go. So you're gonna have a couple options. You can either frost in your pan and then serve to your group however you'd like. You might have some different ways to frost, so I'm gonna talk about a couple. So I can use my straight edge spatula here and take a little bit of my frosting and kind of come up onto the top. And I mean, this frosting is delicious, so this is as much frosting as you would like to use versus however little you wanna use. And I like to do a nice little zigzag swoop in there so I can get some good thickness. But I also, if we're using our baggies, I can also use this as almost like a piping bag. So I just made an itty bitty slit, and if I push down to the bottom, you're gonna see that it starts to come out of my bag. And I can use this to almost do like a more intricate piece that you guys could also use to frost. So however you choose, when you're done, clean up and you're all set for the day.